Hey friends, it's Mel and welcome to my kitchen. I'm so glad you're here tonight. I am very excited about tonight's What's for Dinner. I've got some things that my family absolutely loved this week. None of this is hard. None of it's crazy ingredients, but it is just the things that we have been wanting. So if you need some quick, easy, family-pleasing meals, sit back, relax, grab your sweet tea, and let me do the cooking. When we eat at Chili's, my husband's absolute favorite thing to get is that triple dipper appetizer. And he always gets the Southwestern egg rolls, big mouth bites, and loaded potato skins. I had some leftover black beans and corn, and I knew I wanted to make the Southwestern egg rolls for him out of that. So I'm just starting out with some frozen spinach that I am thawing and cooking up here on top of the stove. I wanted to get as much water out of it as I possibly could, and I am pouring in that leftover corn and black beans. The beans were rinsed and drained, and this was about half a can of each of those. And I'm going to put in about 1/4 a can of refried beans. I'm using half of the recipe that I'm going to have linked down below for you. I had my daughter, Callie, helping me in the kitchen tonight because I had a lot of moving parts, and I told her that did not look like enough spinach to me to throw some more in. I love spinach, and my family, I like to sneak things in on them when I might be able to get away with it. Patrick's not the biggest lover of spinach in things, but he does like it in this, so I thought I could hide some more in there. I put a little bit of pico de gallo. It did call for just a little bit of tomato, so I used that. But as far as seasonings in this, it's just salt and pepper, and then about 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. Everything in here is, already cooked up. You're just kind of warming it all together and getting all the flavors and all the different things combined. I'm going to use some Monterey Jack cheese. I probably used 1/2 cup of that, and about 1/2 cup of cheddar cheese as well. Once I get the cheeses melted in, I am going to put it off the heat, and then I'm going to add in the green onions. You can see that back in the background. I didn't want them to really cook down so much. I wanted them to keep a little bit of their bite. Now for these egg rolls, you just use flour tortillas. I did warm them just a little bit, and I'm sure I stuffed them too big because they're not this big at the restaurant. But that's what I did with them. I cooked them in my air fryer. I'm still getting used to that. You can see I had a little hot spot back there, but I did them about 360 degrees for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I would turn them. They were great. Now the big mouth bites, this is just a very simple little take on them. I've got some butter heating up in a cast iron skillet, and I'm just throwing in some frozen chopped onions, and I'm just using some of the real bacon pieces that you get in the little bag, and I'm just sauteing that up and getting them soft in that butter there. Once I get them to my liking, I'm just going to scoop them out, put them in a little bowl, and set them aside. My footage, you're going to see just a little bit of everything in the background here. This was a real, real night of cooking. A lot of moving parts to tonight's meal, but I'm trying to keep each recipe in step-by-step form for you. Now I just used 1 pound of ground beef, and I just cooked my burgers up in that same skillet so they'd have that bacon and oniony flavor. The only seasonings I used on them was salt and pepper. And no, I didn't make them big mouth, bite-sized. I had what I had, which was regular hamburger buns that needed to be used up. We just made them regular hamburger sized. Now he always gets the loaded potato skins, but you will have seen this not long ago, are these loaded tater tots. We absolutely love these things, and we want them way too often. I'm using a regular size muffin tin that I have greased, and I'm putting 5 tater tots in each of the little compartments, and you're going to bake these on the bottom rack of your oven for about 10 minutes at 450 degrees. When you pull them out, they'll be softened up enough that you can make a little cup out of them. My vanilla bottle fits down in there perfectly. You just find something you have that fits. If you had a shot glass, the recipe said that fits perfectly. But this is what I had, and you just kind of put it down in there and twist it, and you make a little cup. It does not have to be perfect. Don't worry about the shredded tater tots kind of coming up the sides. That's what you need for it to do, and they will crisp up and hold together. Once you get all your little cups made, put them back in the oven and bake them about 15 more minutes. And I don't remember, but I would say I put it on the regular middle rack where I cook at this point. When you pull them out, they're crispy and golden, and they are holding together some. Now Callie's filling them with some cheddar cheese for me. You just want to put a little bit in each cup, and then you're going to bake them 4 or 5 more minutes until that cheese is melted. Then I just pulled them out and I put some more of those bacon pieces on top of them, and then I just let them sit there in the pan while I finish off supper. We'll put the cold stuff on top, you know, right before we eat them. So here are the Southwestern egg rolls. Guys, I cannot tell you how amazing these were. They taste just like what we get at Chili's. And I always had in my head that they had chicken in them, but it is refried beans that kind of holds all that together. My husband was just stunned. He was floored. He said, "Oh my Lord, these are awesome. They taste just like them." We loved them. We loved them so much. And to make our Big Mouth burger, we took the onion and the bacon, and that is like all we put on it, just like the little ones you get. They have a jalapeno ranch that they put on theirs, but this was great. This was just like eating at Chili's, so much cheaper. I could wear my pajamas. We loved this meal. And we used this avocado ranch, Taco Bell brand stuff. We've about used that whole jar of that sauce right there up. We've eaten it on a lot of things. We also dipped our egg rolls in them. The next night, I'm making a lasagna type meal. Maddie, my youngest, that is her favorite, and she was asking for one. And you know, she's tried lots of things that is not necessarily in her wheelhouse, so the girl's getting lasagna if she asks for it. I'm just prepping the onion here, and I got a pound of ground beef on top of the stove, and I've cooked it almost done, drained off the grease, and then I'm going to put in my onions and cook it up the rest of the way. I did want a little bit more grease to render out of it and, you know, stay in my meat and that mixture. I'm putting in just a spoonful of garlic. Gonna let that garlic and onions get all softened up, and just seasoning this very simply with some salt and pepper, and then I'll sprinkle in a little bit of Italian seasoning. The onions and the garlic and the seasonings just help to build that flavor into, you know, every little step of this. Now, I had bought this ragu here, the sauteed onion and garlic. It was on sale, and I just know me, and I thought, you know, I may not feel like doing onions and chopping and whatever, or have time. so I thought this would be a good substitute. Well, I had the time, so I just used this Walmart one that I had on hand. But look, garlic, onion powder, parsley. So many times I don't read the labels like I should. You know, companies make stuff in a million varieties, but a lot of times it is the same stuff in all of them. The same thing with seasoning blends. So before you go out and buy a bunch of different ones, check your ingredients. That's just a tip I have learned that I want to share. But I did pull out 1 cup of that sauce to reserve for the bottom, and then I poured the rest of it into the meat. I just want to get it heated up thoroughly. Now I've got a big pan here that I am spraying. It's a little bit bigger than a 9x13. I've got another one that's a little bit smaller too, but these 2 pans do lots of good work for me. I'm using the cup of sauce that I had saved before, and I'm just using the bottom of my measuring cup to kind of spread that and give me a good base layer to start. Now I'm using cheese ravioli. Mine are still frozen, but they have the ricotta, Parmesan, and Romano cheeses already in them. This was a 25-ounce bag, which was a little bit more than what this recipe that I have linked calls for. But this recipe, it's not a perfect measurement kind of recipe. I just threw a bunch in here. They don't have to be laid down there perfectly. You just don't want them piled up on top of each other. Just kind of layer them in one layer as best you can. Then I'm taking half of the meat and sauce mixture that I have in the skillet and just going to spread that over top of those raviolis. Then we're coming over the top with the cheese layer. I tried to use about a cup of mozzarella on each layer, and then about a half a cup of Parmesan. It has a little bit, different bite to it, so not quite as much. Then you're just going to go through this process again. Now, my raviolis were frozen, so I did cook mine a little bit longer. You can cook it from thawed or refrigerated raviolis. You just need to adjust your time a little. You're going to cover it with aluminum foil and spray the back side of it with some cooking spray and put that side down to your cheese. Just, you don't want that cheese to stick to your aluminum foil and pull off. And I did put this in a 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes. Then I took the aluminum foil off the top, and I didn't turn mine on to broil. I just left it on 350, and I cooked it about 10 or 15 minutes more. It got perfectly brown to my liking. I didn't want to broil it because I could see some of my ravioli sticking out, and I was afraid they would get hard. And in my mind, there's no better side to something like this than a big crispy iceberg lettuce salad. I did make garlic bread tonight. It's weird because it seems like the meals that I really want bread with are already starch-heavy meals. But we don't eat bread with every meal. We don't need it. Believe me, the Efflers get plenty of bread. It does not hurt us to go without it at a meal. And there you can see how well that salad spinner works. This was mine from Aldi that I brag on all the time. It really makes a difference in how long your lettuce lasts. You can see when I pulled it out, it's melted, brown, gooey, and I did sprinkle some Italian seasoning on the top of mine whenever I took the aluminum foil off, because I just like it to have, that look to it, the seasonings and all that. This is so delicious. I know you have probably seen this before. I've made this very similarly in the Crockpot, but it just tastes different when you cook it on top of the stove and bake it in the oven. Delicious. Now I'm going for the Mississippi chicken tonight, friends. I was so excited to try this, so I'm going to do it with some chicken before I tried my big expensive pot roast in it, because I've never done this before. I'm cooking mine in the crock pot, and I have sprayed it really good, and I've probably put about 8 or 9 chicken breast tenderloins in here, and I put them in right from frozen. You know the drill. You got a packet of au jus that you sprinkle over the top. Then you take a packet of ranch dressing seasoning mix and sprinkle that over the top. And I am not a kind of girl that likes really spicy stuff. That's why I have not tried this before now. But I use these little mild banana peppers, and I like that they're in rings too, because when you go to shred this up, they just are softened and they just become one with the roast or the chicken. But I put some of those in, and then I poured maybe close to half a jar of that juice over it. 1 stick of butter. Mine was salted. That might have been a problem for me. I don't know. I cooked this on low all day while I was gone. It was probably 8 or 9 hours before I got home. Get back and take a look at it. House was smelling wonderful. I poked around in it a little bit. I saw some brown stuff. That was fine. That was just some of my chicken that was poking out. It was still juicy and tender and delicious. And I could see those banana rings. And like I said, I just thought I'm going to leave them in there. Began to chop and shred it up with my little hand chopper deal. Everything just shredded right up in there so easily. And then I let it sit here on warm while I made the sides. And you know, I pulled me a bite out to try, and I loved it. It was so good. I just went with instant mashed potatoes tonight, and I opened a can of green beans. Now, I did love this, but I will say it was salty. I did not think about my butter. I never buy unsalted butter, so my butter was salted. If I do not have unsalted butter the next time, I may just throw a thing of Blue Bonnet margarine, a stick of that on there, or maybe go with some lower sodium au jus or something like that. But that being said, I put a little bit of that gravy on my potatoes, and it was good to eat it with the potatoes. It took away a little bit of that saltiness, but I don't know why I waited so long. This was great. I absolutely loved it, and I loved it with the chicken. I can't wait to try it with the roast. Friends, I thank you so much for being here this week. I hope I have given you some inspiration of something different or new, or maybe just something you hadn't had in a while that you think your family would enjoy. I never take it for granted that you set some time aside from your busy schedule and spend with me. You are a bright spot in my life each week. You're never far from my thoughts and my prayers, and I appreciate you so much. And I ask you to join me this week as we just pray for our world and the leaders in power across this planet, Lord. You would just convict their hearts. They would turn to Him, because, friends, we know the Lord is the only hope we have in this world today. Again, thank you for being here, friends. And until I see you next week, I send you love from my kitchen.